Hey guys, appreciate everything on this channel is for educational purposes only and is not intended as financial advice. Additional disclaimer, because a few people were giving me a hard time about it. I take multiple positions per day on multiple coins. It's impossible for me to say what I am when at the time of the video. I'm hedging, I'm short, I'm long, I'm in cash, whatever. So I'm not trying to sell anything when I'm doing videos or articles. That's obviously impossible to know objectively, but I guess you're going to have to take my word for it. So a few days ago, July 9th, I was saying we closed triple doji. That's not good. We didn't close. We closed triple doji. That wasn't good. In this super sweet Brave New Coin article, I was comparing, Bitfinex to now and what the cloud looked like, and this edge-to-edge setup, which played out. So congrats to anybody who did that. We've also never closed below the weekly cloud. We'll look at that. We'll look at the daily 200. I won't bother looking at that pitchfork. And then the R3 pivot, we'll take a look at that too. So let's start with weekly cloud. Again, never close below Kijun on weekly. Too early to call this, but it's starting to look like a spinning top type candle, which is a reversal sign. We'll see what happens. Weekly closes now-ish. It's 8 p.m. EST. As far as like additional support below that, there's not much technical support. There's pivots and things, but I'm looking at the 200, the cloud, those are way too far down, but if we start to jumble around in here, like I was saying for a few videos, that's going to be hard to trade on the weekly, at least. Any support, people are talking about 12, 1300, 1400. Seems kind of ridiculous. I don't think it's going to happen, but I didn't think we were going to break down this much either, so I'm probably wrong again. And again, there's another edge setup here. This is not until January. So should we be hoovering around this area? Look for a nice $300 trade there for similar reasons as the daily cloud. I'll show you that in a second. Here is Coinbase weekly. Again, R3 pivot on the Kijun. Haven't closed below, so that's good. You'll notice these weekly candles look different based on open and closes of the exchanges. So again, here's the weekly on Brave New Coins index, the BLX. Again, since the beginning, we've never closed below, although there's a few instances where we did close below and immediately went right back above the Kijun. So if anything, this is a good buy point from my point of view based on the cloud. You just have to assume the trend is going to continue until it doesn't. I don't think this is a hard end of trend, but the August 1st UASF is a huge variable. Anything could happen. Hopefully it's a non-event. Hopefully we're pricing it all in now. Here's the daily BLX doubled cloud. Again, you had the TK cross, which that was actually a little late, so we'll go through that as well. TK cross bearish, that's your close your long signal. Entry into the cloud, that's your open a short signal with the target being the opposite end. You do get a little bonus here, which is great if you kept it open. I was comparing the consolidation here with Bitfinex dump, very similar here. Now the question, if we get a capitulation wick, this is what a capitulation wick looks like. Nice reversal. Starting to get that here, but if it was $300, that'd be great. $300 wick. And RSI is certainly getting there as far as oversold conditions are concerned. And we'll just have to look for this in the future, but this is pretty weird. People will tell me it's a bear div all day, whatever. It doesn't matter. To me, anyway. I think it was more of a hidden bull. It's still a hidden bull. I'll get to that on the weekly in a second. So as far as some early signs, if you want to trade the triangle with conviction. Here's your break. This was a few candles before the Kijun, the edge-to-edge trade initializing in this candle here, as well as the TK bearish cross. So this was earlier than that. Here's your B-band break. Candle closed below the bands, although some people would argue that these weren't tight enough for warranting a quote-unquote B-band break. I was shooting for the fake out breakout. Again, this is all hindsight, at least this Heikin-Ashi chart. Anytime it's broke below 50, it's gone a little lower. So if you're looking for entry again, somewhere on these candles, which were a little earlier than the edge-to-edge trade. For me, the edge-to-edge trade is the most definitive, albeit not always the most early or earliest entry. But when I see it, I'm pretty confident that it's going to happen. And I was actually fairly bullish, ignoring all the early signs because of these triple wicks on the cloud support. But once this happened, it was game over, at least from my point of view. But of course, if you shorted this from the top like a champ, awesome. But I just don't make trades like that. So again, here's the 200 just by itself. Never close below the 200. Just gotta think we're not gonna close below the 200 now. Here's the chart I've posted for a few quarters now. Pretty simple idea. That the futures settlement or expiration of quarterlies dictates top or bottom. And yeah, you can argue this wasn't the bottom, whatever, fine. It was bottom enough each time. This was pretty perfect. You can argue that the tops weren't perfect each time, but it's good enough for me. You know, this is pretty damn close to being the top. So if we're looking at a bottom, we can expect a bottom by September. How actionable is this? I don't know. Been pretty actionable so far. I didn't take action on this. I sold some cash, but I did not short this in any way. Look at the singled cloud on daily. A lot of people were asking me about this, why I went to singled. I go to singled when I need a faster signal, when I know everything's really slow, when I know things are consolidating. So when I know that in here, a small tip of the scales will move this whole thing, that's what I'm looking for, the faster signal. And you can see on here, the edge-to-edge trade starts a few candles earlier on this one here. So how valuable that was, it's up to you. Again, I wasn't shorting any of this, I just wasn't at the computer. So here's that weekly RSI I was talking about. Being above the 50 has been really important. We haven't closed below the 50 since breaking above, you know, the 200 if you want on the daily. So as it stands on the weekly, probably getting a lower RSI. It's just something to watch. Obviously price is a lot higher than where it was on this point. That would certainly be a hidden bull div in my book anyway. This chart was printed a little earlier today. Yeah, it's a bit arbitrary. As far as the pitchfork is concerned, the pitchfork is valid. But you can see we bounced on the median line, which is what you want to see. You can see we stayed in this zone, bounced down, broke out, broke way above. Anytime you see this on a pitchfork in general, you gotta use caution and say to yourself, opening a long isn't a great idea here, which is similar to why I was switching to the singled cloud. I was waiting for the TK recross, the bullish TK recross, which would be blue over red, which would tell me, in my opinion with confidence, to open a long. That never happened. Don't open a long. Close your long here, based on the cloud. Not open a short, just close your long, and then this was the short entry signal. Okay, so some of that was predictions with current stuff. So now we're going to look at what's going to happen next. I'm looking at divs. Anytime we dip down, looking for a bull div. Doesn't mean it'll mean anything. It just means the selling is slowing down. This is the hourly again. This was a few hours ago at this point, but clearly price is going lower on less momentum. Volume is kind of a wash in general. Overall looks bottomy to me at that point in time. If we look at the live hourly, you can see you're getting lower lows on higher RSI. You know, this is pretty strong. This is a bullish engulfing candle on the hourly. We'll see if that materializes into something further. I'm also seeing, you know, this W, nice bottomy signal. You're also seeing a bounce on the R3 yearly pivot, which is what this yellow line is here. You can see the next pivot up and the 200 and the cloud and the Kijun. So those are all resistance points on the way up. I've been buying with cash here. Why not? Even bought a little on margin. I'm in the middle of the road currently. You know, if you look at the cloud, you got to be thinking we're close to a bounce just based on that. 4 hours got a nice dragonfly situation going on. If we fib this out really quick, when I broke the 200, 50%, somewhere around 2134. That's a target. You could also see, you know, I'm seeing sort of 1, 2, it could go down further into 3 drives territory. It's always something to look for. It could also be head and shoulder situation, inverted. We turn on volume, subtle decrease in volume. So this would be something like this and then back up. You know, that could also happen down here and then back up. Could also be looking for Adam, Eve, and then back up. You know, already on the hourly, you're seeing, even on lower time frames, just go to the 15-minute, why not? Turn all this crap off. Now you're seeing similar bottomy type fractals. These didn't hold, these might, but this is a nice Adam, Eve right here. So overall, kind of just a wash of stuff. Certainly broke consolidation in the higher time frames. The biggest question mark is SegWit, BIP 148, BIP 91. What's going to happen? Let me know what you guys think. I know a lot of people are just out in general, as far as in cash, just waiting until hard fork stuff figures itself out. You know, the fact that I'm questioning whether or not I should even be in at all, and I've been in it for 4+ years. What is somebody who doesn't know anything about anything gonna think? They're gonna be scared shitless, my guess is, as far as staying in or out of a position. That's all I have for today. Like, dislike, comment, share, subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter, Telegram. And lots of people asking me about private stuff. Again, it's 0.1 BTC per hour. Usually I always tell people to watch my better known indicator videos, and then we'll talk from there, because if you don't know absolutely anything, it's really hard to teach anything or talk to you about anything. Happy trading.